As our economy has come roaring back, we've seen some price increases. Some folks have raised worries that this could be a sign of persistent inflation. But that's not our view. Our experts believe, and the data shows, that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary.
Price increases were expected? By who? And there is no inflation on the way? Please give me a break. How do you explain that we are paying more and more for everything, and that prices keep increasing by the minute? And we need an answer other than it was expected, because that clearly doesn't explain anything. Not surprisingly, AOC took a shot explaining it, and as expected, failed miserably.
What are your biggest concerns over inflation, Congresswoman?
When you look at what actual prices are going up, it's in very specific sectors. If this was an overall inflationary issue, we would see prices going up in relatively equal amounts across the board, no matter what the good is. And the reason it's important for us to understand that is because the solution to that is, guess what? Infrastructure.
This is how you can tell AOC got her economics degree from Fidel Castro's National University. And the reality is that we are seeing prices going up all across the board, not only sector-specific items. That is explicitly reported by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Food services, 4.2% increase. Electricity, 3.8%. Apparel, 4.9%. Shelter, 2.6%. Transportation, 10.4%. And gasoline, gasoline, 45.1% increase, among others. So what are they talking about? Larry Summers also tried to explain why prices are going up at such alarming rates. And since he's the former Treasury Secretary, he deserves a chance to be heard. Let's see how he does.
Mr. Secretary, in terms that I can understand, why are we paying more for virtually everything?
Because we've got more demand chasing only a little bit more supply. And when the demand goes up fast and supply doesn't, prices get bid up. That's the way it works with shirts. That's the way it works with houses. That's the way it works with gasoline.
Well, not as expected. That was too simplistic and leaves a lot, and I mean a lot, unanswered. Why would that be?
I will say that I think President Biden is a very, very strong leader, and he has a terrific team of people around him who are doing their absolute best for this country, and I admire them very much.
And that's how you can tell how useless a degree from Harvard University can be when he's full of crap, right? A huge part of my undergrad education was in economics and finance, so believe me when I tell you this. It is not rocket science what's going on here. It is very simple, and I'm going to break it down in words that even a middle school student can understand. Why are prices going up at such an alarming rate? The short answer: because massive inflation and a recession is on its way as a result of the lockdowns, and massive amounts of money being printed out by the minute. And there is a plan to keep printing out money at such alarming rates for the next 10 years. The more money that is floating around, the less value your money will have. The American dollar will get weaker and weaker. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Before that, I need to do this. I really need to do this. I need to respond to Larry Summers. A decrease in supply and increase in demand has very little to do with the current inflation rate. In fact, arguing supply and demand in this case is nonsense. But coming from a former Treasury Secretary is kind of an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Basically what he's saying is this: that prices are going up because people want to buy things. But there are not many people producing such things or services. Nonsense. Nonsense. First of all, other than the basics, people aren't looking to spend money in this economy. They aren't looking to buy anything. There is no such a thing as a shortage of supply due to high demand. Ask China. Now, it is true that due to the lockdowns, the entire economy decreased in supply. but it also decreased proportionally in demand. So Larry Summers will need to come up with a better argument and stop insulting the intelligence of the American people. Please, guys, stop insulting the intelligence of the American people. I don't know who you think you guys are, but everybody's seeing it now. Now, what we're seeing right now is an inflation caused by an artificially created recession. Simple words. Look at these GDP charts from the last 90 years. Last time we had a negative economic growth of this magnitude was in 2008. In the 2008 recession. Well, I don't know at what data Joe Biden is looking at, but this data shows that the current economy is far worse than the 2008 recession. The reason why we don't fully see it yet is because the massive amounts of money the Fed is injecting into the banks and corporations. But give it a year or two, and we'll see the results of that. That is not sustainable. Most people don't know this, but most of the money that is being printed out is not going to the American people. Yes, once in a while, the American people get a stimulus check of a few $100s. But that's it, and that is nothing. That is not where the money is going. It's not going to the American people. The money is going to the big banks and big corporations. It is aimed to artificially keep big banks and corporations functioning on welfare, with the idea, with the argument that we all are going to benefit from that. But will we? Absolutely not. Why? Well, let me explain it graphically. The S&P 500 is an index of the biggest 500 corporations of America. It holds about 80% of the market value. According to this graph, on March of 2020, the market lost 30% of its value. And within the next 14 months, it recovered and went up almost 300% its value. Think about that. This is a recovery that in a normal economy takes at least 10 years to take place. In simple words, this means that if this was something really happening in the economy and not artificially created just for some and not for all, it means that right now, all of you would have twice as much wealth as you had back in March 2020. If you had a car now, you would have two. If you had a house now, you would have two. You would have twice as much wealth as last year. But that's not what happened. And that is exactly the reason why we're seeing inflation rates increasing by the minute. They are printing out money to keep big banks and corporations on welfare to deflect the current recession effects. But that's not sustainable. And we are starting to see that. We are going to pay the price for that. What's coming next is what's known as the Great Reset. And that is where everything we're seeing right now will backfire on the government, which is great news for the American people. I will talk about it on my next video. So please go ahead and subscribe. You don't want to miss that. For now, this will be all. I hope you like the content. Thanks for watching and see you soon.